All right, everyone, what's going on? Dave Mormon, home service business coach. I got my buddy for a repeat guest, Mr. Eric Kelly in the house. Eric, how we doing today, brother?
I am doing amazing. The sun is shining. I'm happy. I got a great tan on my bald
Yeah.
head. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, man, I love it. You've been a big blessing in my life, man. I'll just share for our listeners. I met Eric years ago, helped me a lot with our cleaning business as we were getting systems going. He even came to our in-person summit in Vancouver, taught a bunch of our guys the Christmas lighting business. You've been on the show, man. You've taught sessions to our group, and we are chatting and said, we got to get you back on here. So why don't you start, man? Just give us like, most of the listeners are running small home service business owners. So maybe give them a bit of context as it pertains to like your journey through home services, because I think that'll give us good context for our chat.
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up like falling into being an entrepreneur. It was never my goal. I had left the military and I was broke, and I saw this opportunity and I was like, well, I can do that. I was still kind of in a labor mindset, like, I can find a job or I can do a job. I just need to get paid for my time. And so I fell into window cleaning. And along the way, very early on, I got connected with Josh Latimer, listening to his podcast. And I realized that there was more to this through systems and scripting and mindset and all these different things. And we started to level up really quick. You fast forward 5 years later, we were at seven figures. I was involved in the industry pretty heavily. And then in 2022, I made the decision to exit home service, start exiting home service mentally, and then fully exited in basically end of 2023. And it was a big shift for me, but I moved to a place where I could start helping people that were a couple chapters behind me, and I've really enjoyed that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think, man, it's always come naturally to you, like helping, and whether you call yourself a formal coach or not, I think that's kind of in with your DNA is like, you just don't really have a filter with regards to like helping people with information and helpful advice. I know we met at Responsicon, man, I want to say in like 2019 or maybe 2020. And I remember sitting at the table with you and you're just like, yeah, we sell in packages. I was like, man, I've never sold in packages. Tell me what's going on here. So I think like it comes naturally to you, which I think is like pretty cool to see.
yeah, and if I'm being honest, you always got to give credit to where you get information from. I was taught to sell in packages, and I've always been a giver and tried to add value. So it's not secret information that I would hold to myself. You and I were in the same market, and we collaborated all the time, shared information all the time. I mean, we did safety training with your company, I think a couple years in a row. When you wanted to get
Yep.
into Christmas lights, I was more than happy to share information with you. And
Yeah.
all those sorts of things. If you have an abundance mindset, you're not competing, and you go, I
Mhm.
have this piece of information that, I'm a chapter ahead. Let me share that with someone a chapter behind so that they
Mhm.
can maybe skip over this thing that's going to be a problem for them. You know what I mean?
Can we touch on that for a sec, man? I like talking about collaborating over competing. Do you mind just touching on that a little more? Because I think a lot of listeners, we even have like members in our coaching program, and they're like, are you right now coaching someone in, this location? It's like, whether we are or not, it shouldn't really matter. Do you mind just talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of that comes from a false belief in how the economy works. They think if I get more, someone else has to get less. That's the first problem, right? That's the reality is if you truly understood the market and you understood what your maximum business size is, you're nowhere near hitting that. And you could be multiple, seven figures and still not be at your max business size for your market. So that's the first thing to understand. And I typically hear that problem like, oh, they're in my market. Well, if you're doing less than $5 million a year in
Mhm.
home service, it's not an issue, right?
Mhm.
It's really not an issue. And then on top of that, it goes to your mindset about how you view your competitors. Chet Holmes had a really good concept in the Dream 100, right? Dream 100 is 100 people not only that you want to know, but who knows you. And a lot of those, you were one of those. You were a joint venture partner in a sense, someone that you could collaborate with. If there was something outside of our market, but it was in your market, we could give that to you, and you could do the same for us. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And when you start to develop that mindset, it really doesn't matter who is in your mastermind or who's in your coaching group. If you're in the same market, because you never know when that relationship is going to matter. When you
Mhm.
fall off a ladder and break your leg and you can't service your clients and you ask them to help you out,
Mhm.
or you end up having to move, right? You end up doing what I did. You pick up and you move 2,500 miles away, and
Mhm.
you go, "Hey, this thing came up. Are you interested in this?" Like, you never know what having that relationship will do for you. For
Mhm.
me, it created a really good partnership with Christmas lights for us. I was their
Mhm.
supplier for many years,
Yep.
and it was great. And if we had not started with an attitude of abundance and sharing and giving, then
Yeah.
it would have never happened.
Yeah. No, man, 100%. You actually get to tell everyone like why we're big on the lease model is because of Eric a lot. I did our first year selling lights from our previous supplier, which I would say was like it worked, but the lease model works a lot better. So we went to Eric's site, we shadowed him, we got our order in with him. And so yeah, man, I completely agree. Like it's usually the dudes with the smallest companies that have the highest level of fear that someone else is in their market. It's the guys that, like us, the pie's so big and we can both have very successful businesses that can run and we're not going to step on each other's toes. So I think that's pretty cool to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to look at it like there's more than enough for everybody. I mean, I lived in a town in Canada of 78,000 people. That's not very big. There was 7 direct competitors in my city,
Mhm.
and we still were one of the biggest, but it never affected me what they were doing.
Mhm.
Because number one, you're not all going to have the same customer, right? Everybody's got a different avatar,
Mhm.
and there's more than enough work to go around. It comes down to your marketing, right? It's
Mhm.
really not about your competitor, it's about your marketing.
Yeah, 100%. Before we talk about like business identity, man, I wouldn't mind rewinding a little bit. Like both you and I started our business with very little capital. Most listeners would be the same. How, and we're both big on like getting the right information, getting access to mentors. Like if you would go back, do you mind just sharing? Because like it's not cheap to fly to Phoenix and get Responsicon tickets and not make income for 4 days and go there. Like, do you mind sharing just like a few key things like you did with regards to throwing down cash for either coaching or mentorship or conferences? I'm just curious your story to get where you were today.
Yeah, so I started my company. I had a 2003 Toyota Echo that my wife and I shared, a little fart box of a car.
Yeah.
And I had to borrow $200 from my mother at 32 years old to buy my first set of window cleaning tools. So to put this in perspective, I didn't walk in, buy an F-350 with a skid, and have $10,000 set aside for marketing and all these different things. I literally had to hustle. I had an old printer and I printed off flyers and went and handed them out door to door. I did very viral guerrilla marketing to get started. It was a lot of hustle and a lot of grit and just a lot of getting up every day and doing the same thing. And when it came down to investing, this is the one thing that I've realized many years later is you start out, you have that hustle and grit, and then you start to produce profit. And then sometimes you're more tempted to spend it on equipment than
Mhm.
knowledge. So you go,
Right.
okay, I have $10,000. I could buy this really nice pressure washer or soft wash system or whatever it is,
Mhm.
because that's what you're used to. You are a worker. So the better equipment you relate to more efficient and all these different things, when really you should be applying that in knowledge and marketing, right? And I would say I didn't always, I sometimes I bought the flashy equipment. Sure, I did.
Yeah.
But I always saw knowledge as more important to go faster,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Investing in a coaching program, investing in going to an event, to network, to do all these different things paid off for me years later when I became a speaker, when I was going
Mhm.
around and people recognized me and all these different things. And that is where things started to pay off, which led to eventually where I'm at now.
Yeah, amazing. Do you mind just sharing? Let's just close the loop. Like, what are you doing now? And we'll get into it more a little later, but like, just tell us what your job is now. Not that entrepreneurs have jobs, but what's got your focus right now?
So my focus right now is within Honor Fire and Warplan, working with Josh Latimer. My direct thing that I do from the day to day is make sure that all our clients are succeeding. There's many titles we could put to it, but at the end of the day, I make sure that people are succeeding in the things that we are putting out there,
Nice.
coordinating, coaching, making sure the software is great, all these different things. I do a lot of different things. We're very small, we're very startup. And so I have to put on a lot of hats. But at the end of the day, we're trying to serve our customers and we're trying to over deliver for them. That's
Nice.
fundamentally the focus.
Amazing. Would it be fair to say you're Josh's integrator?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So those familiar with EOS, you've got Visionary. Those of you who know Josh, I think he was very instrumental in getting me started. Bought his boot camp back in the day, got on a coaching call, listened to his podcast. Every good visionary needs their equal integrator, someone that actually takes that vision and makes it come to life. So yeah, Canada is sad to lose Eric, but the US gained him. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Man, talk me through. We were talking off camera and I wanted to get recording going. The different identities that business owners carry. You've kind of lived through all of them that you told me. I wouldn't mind just giving you the mic and starting from the start and just take it away because like there's a lot of gold here.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I realized that my identity had been changing as I leveled up. You heard that term, you level up your life and in different areas. So people silo the different areas of your life. So you have your family life, you have your personal life, you have your spiritual life, you have your business life, whatever silos you want to put in place. And at different times in your life, certain areas go up. So like for business, for many years, that went up. And then I decided to focus on my family more. And so that went up, right? Through acquisition of knowledge and repetition of my learning and implementation and things like that. But what I realized along the way is that when these silos crest over a certain level unanimously, you all of a sudden are a new person. You are not the same person as when you started your business. When you are no longer the guy doing the production of your work, you are fundamentally a different person. You may be sales, you may have outside sales, maybe you're office only, whatever it is,
Mhm.
you are fundamentally changing. And the things that got you there will no longer serve you. I.e., you listen to this one podcast to get you to this point. That podcast will not get you to the next thing you go to, right? And then you have to change where you're taking in knowledge. And the problem that I found with myself is I was very slow in leveling up sometimes because I didn't realize that. The other thing was I was looking at the intermediate roadblock and not the end roadblock. So about let's see, I was 38 on my birthday. I sat down and I wrote my eulogy out,
Mhm.
which that's an exercise that is very hard, but it's very worthwhile. And what you do is you take every area of your life. What do you want your family to say about you, your children, your spouse, business associates, outsiders, people that like you write each one out. When you die, what do you want these people to say about you? And that creates this high vision of yourself that then you can start to aim out at and you level up quicker, right?
Mhm.
Ed
Mhm.
Milet talks about it where he goes, I don't want to die and then go to heaven. And God goes, this is the person you could have been, and this is the
Right.
person you are,
Yeah.
right? And that gap. So in this process of leveling up your identity, you move from technician to
Mhm.
manager to
Mhm.
CEO, and then whatever comes next,
Mhm.
right? Too many
Mhm.
guys take on the identity of their business. Like, I'm a window cleaner.
Right.
Really? Till you're 65 and retire?
Yeah.
Are you a parent as well? Are you a spouse? Like, are you going to ignore those? And some guys do.
Yeah.
And so you got to think of yourself comprehensively and have a very high view of yourself. And in doing that, you'll level up quicker because now your gap goes from this to
Mhm.
this.
Yeah. They're so good, man. Why do you think in small trades businesses like below $1 million, you have an ambitious owner operator? Why is so much of this knowledge you just rattled off? Why is it almost like all of that's like, it's not like consciously kept secret, but why do most guys just don't have that information? Is it because most of us just aren't exposed to it from an early age? Or like, I'd love your take on why it seems to be missing in this specific, and not a little bit missing, but like 100 pressure washers in a room, there's probably four of them that actually know like how to run a business. Like it's really bad.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think part of it is in home service. Typically, most of the guys that get into it work for one of those companies and they go, I want to take a little bit more money. I'm going to go out on my own. That's, how a lot of people start, or they're broke, right? A lot of home service contractors start doing, especially low barrier to entry trades. Like starting a roofing company is expensive.
Yeah.
right? Starting a window cleaning company is not,
Yeah.
right? You
Mhm.
can easily get to 100K a year being a solopreneur and stay there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing is there. A lot of people that get into home services um, come from a very fixed poverty mindset.
Mhm.
And so it's very hard for them to break through that. That's the first thing.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's impossible. I mean, look at me, look at
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
but I think the other thing too is they have to want more. And
Mhm.
if they're only aiming at that intermediate gap, when you get there, the water gets really warm and it gets really comfortable.
Mhm.
I even got there. When I
Mhm.
was basically functioning as a CEO in the company, I was traveling a lot, going to a lot of conferences,
Mhm.
speaking, doing different things. I was comfortable. I also
Yeah.
put on so much weight that I almost had a heart attack
Mm. Mm.
because I got comfortable.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had no upward pull. I had made it, so to say, right?
Yeah. So how does a business owner like, cause I'm just asking because you've done this a few times, like how do you actually fire that identity of like technician or office? Because I would say 80% of the companies we coach, 80% of the members' time eats up in field work or office work. Those aren't inherently bad because they pay the bills, but they are like two cement blocks that you're stamping on your feet that like the sales, the marketing, the growth, you just can't access that. So how do you put to death? Because it's not an overnight thing, but do you have a strategy or something that you've done to say, no, Eric's no longer a window cleaning business. He's actually a business owner and he's working backwards to achieve that.
Yep. I think it comes down partially, when I talk about having a high view of yourself, having a big why in your company, i.e., within the first year of starting my business, when we actually made money and I could put food on the table for my family, I
Mhm.
realized how hard it was carting around 32-foot ladders and going up and down and
Mhm.
breathing in bleach. I was
Mhm.
32. I was finishing my master's degree. I had two small children at home. And I
Mhm.
sat them down and I said, okay, dad is going to do this for 2 years
Mhm.
total. And we're already like 8 months in at this point. I
Mhm.
said, 2 years, and then I'm getting out of the field. So we're going to grind for 2 years. And I was out in 18 months.
Wow. Wow.
And
So it
it's
had a
because I had this
timeline.
vision. I had a huge vision of I am not going to be in the field. I'm 32. This is a young man's game, first of all. I was in shape. I had been just gotten out of the army,
Mhm.
but I was like, no, I don't want to do
Yeah.
this till I'm 50,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'll go sell insurance if I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I think
Exactly.
a lot of the tradies on these calls, like they're physically active, they're athletic. Maybe they played sports, did military like yourself, and like you think you can do it and you can, but that doesn't mean like you should be doing it, which is like really hard for a lot of us.
Yep. Yeah, it comes back to people always say what they don't want. They never actually say what they want. So
Mm.
you ask someone like, well, what do you want? And they'll go,
Mm.
well, I don't want to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay. You said what you don't want, right?
Yeah.
Josh has this really great story. He was talking to a gal, like, what do you want from a husband? Well, I don't want him to be a drunk. I don't want him
Mm.
to do this. I don't want him to do that. But the problem is your reticular activating system in your brain will look and find all the things that you're focusing on,
Mhm.
right? But if you're focusing on, I don't want to work in the field, which means I need to find a technician that I could train really well to be a crew leader, you
Mhm.
start doing that. And along the way, you build trainings and you build the things in preparation for that, right?
Mhm.
Noah built an ark when there was rain hadn't existed.
Yeah.
You put the things in place so that when that happens, you're ready. I had all my
Mhm.
training videos done. I had it all systemized, checklist, and I never even had an employee.
Yeah.
I knew
Amazing.
that they were coming.
Yeah, it starts with some intentionality, man. And I just love that we're both on this call and didn't come from money and started with essentially nothing. Like you literally borrowed money from your parents. Like so cool to see what's possible. So I just love that you're putting to death a lot of excuses of someone that says I can't do that. And a mentor of mine always told me, he said, speak like the person you want to become. So if
Mm-hmm.
you speak like a window cleaner versus a business owner, it's just a different way of seeing the business. He also told me, Eric, he said, stop saying I with Revive. It's we. And before I had my first person, it was always we. And friends would say, who's we? Like right now, it's just Dave, but I know I will be hiring someone and it's going to be we. So it's just, it starts between the ears and then it will start to live out, which I think is so cool to talk about.
Yeah, the things that come out of your mouth actually matter in your brain.
Hmm.
They form beliefs, belief form mindsets. That's a whole teaching on how that whole system in your brain works. If you say it out the way it's that you envision it to be, it'll
Yeah,
happen, right?
totally.
But not only that, like people are like, oh, it's hard to hire. Well, it's hard to work on your own too. You just have to choose your heart. It's hard being fat. It's also hard getting in shape. It's
Yeah,
hard being broke. It's hard, being rich. You just have to
yeah,
choose your heart.
yeah.
Me losing 60 pounds after I thought I had a heart attack and getting in shape and being in the best shape of my life at 40, it was
Mhm.
hard. 5 a.m. gym, 6 days a week, eating chicken breast and broccoli for a year.
Wow.
But you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It was my heart. I chose it
yeah,
because I wanted to run around with my grandkids when I'm 70.
yeah. Totally, man. And I think too, like you're creating your own track record of Eric telling Eric that you can achieve something, which I think like I came into my washing business in 2017 with a lot of confidence because I already ran my student painting company through college and like I kind of knew the gist of it. So I brought that track record of like, I know how to door knock, I know how to sell. And yeah, some things were messed up. I needed to change. But same way with you, like, you know how to grow a business, you've hired a whole bunch of people, you know how to get in shape, you know how to be a good dad. Like you just take this track record and keep compounding, which I think is like kind of cool, like even larger than just business concepts in general.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
I'm giving you the mic, man, because a little attention grabber. You've got a 4-letter word that starts with F, man, and it's not what we're thinking. So talk us through, man. I look for levers in business that we can pull. Let's pretend the listener's not sitting on 100 grand to grow the business. So for that scrappy bootstrap entrepreneur, talk us through the 4-letter F word, man.
Yeah. Well, we talk about levers all the time. You want to be able to put $1 in the top, pull the lever, and $10 comes out the bottom. But what if you don't have $1 to put in, right? The thing you have to do is you have to get your FRAP together. That's what we jokingly say
Nice.
around here. FRAP is an acronym for frequency, referrals, average ticket, and pricing. And what
Yeah.
people don't realize, if you've been in business more than a year, you can use FRAP. You start closing your gap with the customers you need to get to close your goal on the revenue you want to make by doing FRAP. Can you increase your frequency? Can you go from cleaning their windows once a year to twice a year? You just doubled the take home from that customer, right?
Mhm.
Can you get referrals? Can you go heavy, build some scripts, train everybody on them, make it like religion in your company? It was religion in ours. By the time someone was done and they had checked out, we had asked for a referral 5 times.
Wow.
We had a 20% referral rate,
Wow. Great.
which was huge.
Yeah.
Can you raise your average ticket through things like bundling? That's a huge one. Someone calls
Mhm.
for window cleaning. Do you sell them a window cleaning or do you try and also sell them a driveway cleaning? By doing
Mhm.
that, you bring your average ticket up. So you drive there and now you're making 25 to 100% more by going there.
Mhm.
And then your prices. Everybody should be raising your prices all the time. I don't know if you heard about this thing called inflation, but it's continuing to go up. So why haven't
Yeah.
your prices? Your
Mhm.
supplies have gone up, your gas has gone up, your wages have gone up. So why haven't your prices?
Mhm.
And so you can start with no money. You can bring more money, more profit into your business by using FRAP. And
Mhm.
then once you've gotten your FRAP together and maximized as much of that as you can, then you start using money levers.
Nice. Man, it's so good. Like I was trying to think of those for frequency, referral, average ticket pricing, and I love your take first. For simplicity, if we just had to pick one that most home service businesses drop the ball on that are sub $1 million, what would you say? I'd love to just hear you rip. It's kind of a 4-way tie for me, but I'm curious, like, because you're working with Josh, you guys are exposed to the same world we are. What do you see the common one being like the blinking red light to start?
Probably raising your prices.
Mm.
I will caveat, like if you're a roofing company, frequency is really hard to do. You get one roof
Yeah,
every 20 years, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, that, sure, that's a little hard. I'll give you that. But if you're in a repeat service company, FRAP
Mm,
applies across the board. But pricing is actually the biggest mindset one. People
mm,
will be like, yeah, I'll send out an email to my list. No problem. I'll do that every month. They're
mm,
totally fine doing that. They're fine asking for referrals. They're
mm,
fine trying to bundle things together because they look at it, go, well, I'll save money on gas having to go to less houses every day. But when you
mm.
talk to them about raising their prices, oh, Well,
Yeah.
you don't understand, Eric. I can't. I'm the
Mhm.
highest price in my market, which
Mhm.
I always reply with, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
No, I just know. One thing I used to do when I had my company is I secret shop my competitors 4 times a year.
Mm. Yeah.
4 times a year. I did it in my town, I did it in the next town over, and I did it in the next town over.
Yeah.
That way I knew, and I used the exact same size of house, services, everything.
Mhm.
And I found out I was not the most expensive. So guess what I did? Raise my
Nice.
prices.
Yeah.
Gas went up, I raised my prices. And you can use supply and demand pricing. I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys talk about that at all, but when things are slow, you lower your prices. When things
Mhm.
are really busy, you raise your prices if you don't want to expand your capacity. So you get more profit off the crews that
Mhm.
you have.
Mhm.
But well, I talked to guys, they're like, no, I haven't raised my prices in 5 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Everyone did it to you. Why
Do
haven't you done
you
it for yourself?
do you think, man, most of the owner operators are like, I don't know how to say it, like maybe too close to their customers, like they're almost friends with them, that it's almost like I'm like trying to give everyone like the buddy discount, or like what? I'm just trying to go a little deeper with the why is this the case?
That's possible. What I've seen more often in working with people is they're nothing like their ideal customer. In
Yeah.
fact,
The
like
huge gap.
I would never pay, for window cleaning.
Yeah.
Like to go out and charge $600 to do in and out on a medium sized home. I would have been
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
And that's what I found more often is owner operators are nothing like their customers. Think about a Christmas light install.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll give a bid for $1,500 and they're like nervous to do it.
Mhm.
But then the customer's like, yeah, and actually
Yeah.
wrap this tree too. So what's that, 2000? And they're
Yeah.
like, how could you how
Yeah.
could you spend money like that?
Yeah.
And they have to realize that they are not their customer. For most home service contractors, you are selling a luxury service.
Mhm.
The day of the do-it-yourselfer, the older boomer generation where they did
Yeah.
everything themselves, that is
Mhm.
dying.
Yeah.
Most people only do it themselves now out of necessity and poverty, and they
Mhm.
will happily pay someone to come do it for them. You're
Yeah.
selling a luxury service. You may not buy it yourself, but you're supplying it, you know?
Yeah. Other than like increasing wealth, like how do you think a trades business owner could more learn how their ideal customer thinks? I'm curious if you got anything for that. Because once you
Yeah,
learn how they think, you learn how they make purchasing decisions too.
yeah. So a really good exercise that you can do, and I learned this a number of years ago, you need to develop a customer avatar.
Mhm.
Most big corporations do this. So
Mhm.
Lululemon, based out of Vancouver, their
Mhm.
ideal customer avatar document is 26 pages long. What
Wow.
kind of wine does she drink? What does she do on the weekends?
Mhm.
Like they went very deep because
Mhm.
when you understand your avatar, then you can do really good marketing because then you can write copywriting better. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
But most home service guys are like, I have no idea.
Mhm.
Great. I didn't know at first how to do it. So what I did is I went through my customer database and I found the 5 customers that I love working with the most. Like
Mhm.
they never question the bill. They're
Mhm.
always nice. They give you cookies when you're there. They tip your guys. Like
Yeah.
just your ideal person on your list you want to work with. You
Mhm.
take them to coffee or you take them to lunch or
Mhm.
you incentivize them to fill out a survey
Yeah.
and you ask them all these different things like, why did you pick us? Like, what are
Mhm.
some things you care about? And you can
Mhm.
even go in depth, like, what do you do for hobbies? And you can build your ideal customer avatar off your ideal customer. And then you
Mhm.
can start marketing effectively to them.
Yeah. 100%, man. And I think we changed our website this year, man, to add in our value stack communicative company, which
Mhm.
essentially is like we will communicate with you and make this as frictionless as possible. Because myself, man, I'm unlike you. I'm not handy and do stuff around the house. So I just want to click a button and put my credit card down. And
Yep.
that's the experience that I want. And so knowing that, I'm trying to design my company in a similar way. And your ideal avatars, you'll find they will value their time, their convenience, and a frictionless process higher than a few hundred, or in some services, a few $1,000s. And I think, like, if you look at how much money most trades businesses leave on the table is insane because they have not gone through this exercise you're talking about.
And it comes down to valuing your time as well. Like you understand the value of your time. You repainting your house, You were a painter, right?
Yeah.
You know how
Yep.
to paint, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
I can hang my own Christmas lights. The only reason why I did it every year was for training. But
Mhm.
you know, I had a really weird experience in leveling, talking about identity. For me to go get a beard trim, because I don't get haircuts, right?
Yeah.
I'm really particular. I have this one barber, he does it right. But I have to leave here, drive 35, 40 minutes, depending on traffic,
Mhm.
wait, get my beard trimmed, come back, and I'm out the door 2 hours and $60. But
Okay.
what if we had him come to the office once a week and do everybody in the office, and it only cost me $40 more a person?
Yeah. Done.
I'm in the chair 15 minutes. I got an hour and 45 minutes back for only
Mhm.
$40 more.
Yeah.
That's what these people are doing.
Mhm.
That's what they're doing when they buy your service.
Mhm.
And if you start thinking about it like that, they're buying their time back.
Mhm.
And you know, they want a clean house, but they don't want to they don't want to go to Home Depot and rent a pressure washer and do all that.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. So they're
Yeah.
buying their time back from you.
Yeah. Totally, man. And then it like a lot of reason I think why these companies can't grow is because there isn't enough margin to do so, which all starts with like how you perceive the business. So it does like create this crazy like vicious loop, which you get talking to people like we both have that stay stuck at 150K for 15 years and then they're like next to impossible to coach and change the furniture in their brain. So that happens too. So to wrap up, man, on the pricing, what would you say is like a tangible takeaway for a listener? Like maybe they're even like 5% open minded that, you know what, maybe Eric and Dave did just cook this up and I should look at my pricing. What would be a tangible, like, get off this podcast and like actually do this month with regards to their pricing?
Yeah. So if you're really hesitant to like raise your prices in general, this is the first thing you can do is if the central bank says, you know, we're raising interest rates,
Mhm.
or you can follow the inflation index. Hey, inflation's up 4%. Then you raise your prices 4%. Just that way, you're still making the same net, right?
Mhm.
Nothing will change because your gas is going up, your groceries are going up, and you know, all that stuff has to go up.
Mhm.
You're going to pay for your chemicals and your supplies and all those things 4% more at a minimum. At least get that back.
Nice.
And what you're going to realize is nothing will change. And then when you see that, you go, okay, I don't want to hire another crew. I got all this work. Well, then raise your prices, close rate will go down, but you get
Mhm.
way more profit off of that. And that's really exciting for guys that don't want to have a 6 truck company. They want two
Yeah.
trucks, right? Like
Yeah.
I liked hovering at 2 to 3 trucks because I went camping every weekend with my family. I worked 15 hours a week,
Yeah.
saw my kids all I wanted. That was my thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man,
So,
you did it really well. You had a really loyal staff. You had high ticket average job sizes, trucks booked out. You had someone great in the office and you had someone doing sales. So you're
yep,
basically just like the big problem solver and like the chief strategist at that point, which like I'd call that like a boutique business model,
yep,
which is really crafted around what the owner wants. But in your mindset, man, like that's what the winning looked like because you were freaking gone speaking and family man. And so like you everyone on this call needs to figure out what the winning scoreboard looks like. And like winning doesn't always mean subsequent trucks on the road because it's a nice flex on Instagram. But internally, I think a lot of these owners like would look at Eric's business or at my business and be like, man, that would be so nice to just have like a staff of 7 that stays on year round.
yep. I hit it in 2021 and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I like, I'd get up and I just go, look at my to-do list for the day. I'd read like for 6 hours, or we would take off camping and like
Yeah.
I could leave for a couple days and nothing would fall apart. You know, everybody took ownership in what they did, and you know, like getting to that point was amazing. But
Mhm.
that's what my why was. I
Yeah.
was trying to get to that as fast as possible, and we did it very quick. And it
Yeah.
opened up other opportunities for me, wholesaling and speaking, and I could fill my time with that because I didn't want to be lazy.
Yeah.
But if my kids wanted time, they got time. You know, I gardened. I don't look like a gardener, but I'd be in my garden for like 2 hours. It was awesome.
It's awesome. I'm gonna push you on that for a sec, man. And then we'll get to wrapping up. How did you circumvent around the fact that you're maybe camping, or in my case, golfing on a Wednesday, or you're taking off early for a Friday. How did your technicians in the field or your office admin swamped with calls and stress? How did you talk to them about that? Or did you just keep it on the down low? Because sometimes there can be resentment, right? I know there's this big Facebook group and this, I've seen a thread on this in years past. The guy literally has a high rise window cleaning crew and he'll post a picture of his like Gucci sneakers with it. And I'm just like, oh man, that looks so cringy. But how did you go about that? That you can be outside of work and things are still running. How'd you deal with that with your team members?
One, I modeled so when it comes to your culture, there's things that you celebrate, tolerate, and correct, right? If you tolerate lateness, then it becomes a standard. If you celebrate going above and beyond, so that's the first thing. I was always the first one to jump on and fix the truck if it needed being fixed. I'd drive to the job site, those different things. If I was out of town, hey, bring it home, take the rest of the day off. Don't worry, you can make up the hours or whatever. I was always
Mhm.
equitable to my staff. When I hire them, I
Right.
let them know this is what your responsibility is. There's going to be long days, there's going to be short days. There's going to
Mhm.
be a lot of phone calls, and there's going to be a little.
Mhm.
My job is this, this, and this. Your job is this, this, and this. I am not going to manage you. I'm going to empower you with decision making capability. So everybody in my company had a level that they were able to make decisions in.
Mhm.
Technicians could do 1 hour of labor or $100.
Mhm.
Office manager could do 2.5 hours, $250, and then above that, they had discretion up to 1,000.
Okay.
What that did for me is I didn't get a phone call while I was off grid camping.
Mhm.
I'd get back and I'd get briefed on what happened, and I'd go, okay, I
Mhm.
would have done this, but thank you for handling that, and that's
Mhm.
it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Empowering your people to make decisions in your absence will
Mhm.
make them own the decision more.
I love that.
And especially in how you react. Like when they do make a decision, you go, okay, cool. Thank you for making a decision. In the
Yeah.
future, I would like to see this instead. Right?
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. And like, I think you're what I know of you, man. I think you're like can be firm, but I think you're like a fairly like relatable leader. Like looking at your beard and your tattoos and physique, like I think you personally look more intimidating than you are, in my opinion. And I think someone working for you, you would be really fair to work for. And I think people, there's a lot of bad bosses to work for. So I think when in my case at least, when employees are a good match with me, we know within the course of 6 months. And then I'm like, man, I think this is going to be just like a harmonious relationship going forward.
Yep. I had employees that were with me for almost the entire time I had my company. And I still
Mhm.
talk to him,
Yeah.
actually. He the best? No, he was a B, right?
Mhm.
But he was a consistent B. He wasn't an
Yeah.
A 1 week and a C the next. He was
Yeah.
consistent. Overall, I'll say.
Yeah.
There was some times him and I
100%.
had to have heart to hearts, but you know, I I am intimidating. There's a joke around here. We did an event here early on when I was working with Josh, and a few months later, I was talking with one of the clients, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were Josh's security," and we laughed. It's like, "Oh, we
Yeah.
know you need security. Come on!" Like,
Yeah.
I am intimidating, and I always got that. But when people saw how I actually interacted with them, I had so many years of leadership in the military. I went from a screaming drill sergeant, early
Mhm.
newbie to leadership to exactly how I did in my company. Hey, like you screwed that up. Let's talk about it. I was
Yeah.
not that guy. And I carried that over into my business. Fundamentally, there's really no reason to get mad at anything in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Everybody's got the choice to decide. You can only control your thoughts, actions, and emotions, which
Mhm.
means you can only control how you react to something, not what happens to you.
Yeah. One last thing on that, man. I my take on you is that when it comes to money, like if an employee makes a mistake and it costs you 1,500 bucks, 2,000 bucks, like I don't see you freaking out over that. So can you just talk to like how some owners hold the money in their business? So like I think it comes ultimately to your values, and like both of us view money as a tool for growth and providing for a family, putting some away and helping others. But some business owners, I think, make really crappy leaders because they hold on to every dime in their business too. Do you mind just touching on that too?
Yeah, they see their employees as the taker of their money in their wages and what they do to you. Every year in business, at our kickoff meeting in February, I'd say, listen, we're going to make a $10,000 mistake this year, and it's usually me. And sure enough, every year we had a $10,000 mistake.
Mhm.
And, one year we had to completely reside and repaint a house instead of going to
Mhm.
court. It was
Mhm.
$14,500. And
Mhm.
when I took the court documents, I stopped by the job site to my employees. I'm like, hey, you want to see what a $14,000 mistake looks like? And I signed it in
Yeah.
front of them. They're like, did we do that? I said, no, but even if you had, I'm the owner. It all falls on me. It's
Yeah.
my ownership, right? So I
Yeah.
get to, read extreme ownership. It's all on me.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at them.
Mhm.
And, if you realize that your employees are not your adversary, I mean, one year we took all our staff to Calgary on a 3-day vacation because they hit all our targets.
Wow.
And I could have kept that money. That trip cost
Mhm.
me like 8 grand, I think. I could have
Mhm.
kept it,
Mhm.
but I got what I wanted because I put a challenge out to them. So I'm going to make good on that. Your
Nice.
employees are not the enemy. And if they are, you fire them and get the ones that are not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, I love that. And everything guys Eric shared in the last 40 minutes is just all centered around leadership. And like the cool thing, I love what you said, man. It can be applied outside of trades businesses too. This is just good life principles for growing a company, which is incredible. So let's wrap, man. I want to hear you kind of go off about what you and Josh are building is pretty cool. We've been texting a bit. You've been sharing. I said, come on the show, give the listeners just a glimpse of kind of what you guys are up to. And then, of course, like where we can get more info. And even if there's some kind of a special offer for listeners that listen this far, would be cool. So tell us what you guys are doing right now.
So what we're doing now is we have built a software based on the principles that Josh has been teaching for the last 10 years. The things that he taught me when he was my coach that would take me hours and hours every week to do, measuring your ROI and all these different things. Warplan AI is our software platform, and fundamentally, it helps you make more money in 4 different ways. One, it helps you make money through relationships. So it gives you a digital Rolodex of all your Dream 100, how to do planned randomness for your employees, how to track your competitors. And then it helps you make money through planning. So you plan your money levers so you know exactly how many door hangers you need to do that week, what your return on is going to be, and help you close your gap. Helps you understand what your gap is between your base revenue and your goal revenue and how many customers you need to acquire. It helps you through creative. So the AI portion, it actually auto generates all your social posts for you. It auto generates your email copy because you build an avatar in the software with our help. And then you also tell it, what the special is about, and it crafts the email for you with really good copywriting in the bot that we've
Hmm.
trained. And it
Wow.
helps you through data, knowing where your money is going, knowing how many customers you need to get, knowing what you're spending on marketing. Plus, in that, there's 10 what we call money missions, which are teachings from Josh of marketing principles that apply to any business. So fundamentally, when you start using the software, it's like a 10-week boot camp. And
Hmm.
people go, oh, I don't have time for that, yada, yada, yada. The reality is we've built this software where you can do, we call it bathrobe planning. You can sit at your coffee table on Saturday morning and plan all your marketing for your week, figure out who you need to reach out to for your partnerships, know how many customers you need to get that week and what you're going to do for it, all while you eat a bowl of cereal and drink a
Wow.
cup of coffee.
Yeah.
That
That's
used to take me
amazing.
like 6 hours a week.
Yeah. 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 It's like, how could you afford to not do that, man? I think in today at recording, we're July 2024. I think people are inundated with too much info. They actually need to be told less and told like more directly, like, okay, horse blinders, just do these things. So it sounds like the software tends to do that.
Yeah, and not only that though, it's really not about the software. We're trying to build a community to empower small business owners. So our
Nice.
whole way that we're getting this out to people, so we're not a traditional SaaS product where you just go sign up for an account, onboard, and you use it. We
Mhm.
actually have created small groups of people called battle groups where you
Mhm.
partner with someone you know who you identify with and you lock arms together and go through the 10 weeks. And so
Cool.
we've debuted it, we've beta tested it, we're coming out of beta right now and we're
Mhm.
going to start getting very noisy in the next month or two about it. And
Nice.
people have already started to see on Facebook, people talking about, oh, I'm closing my gaps, some screenshots, different things like that. If you see that, just reach out to that person, ask them about it.
Mhm.
You can always go to our website, warplan.com, and get our Everything is Marketing monthly newsletter. Because when we
Yeah.
start getting loud about this, you're going to see all about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, Josh is one of the best marketers I know, man. So, and I know you, and I'm like, you guys put you two together, it's going to be cool what you guys come up with. So that's why I wanted to get you on. So warplan.com would be
Yep.
best place for listeners to go at this point.
Yep, get our newsletter. That's where we're going to start pushing out all. We've been very quiet for the last year. We've invested $2 million in building this software, building the whole program, building the community, because the community, the one thing that we realize is AI can replace everything except community.
Yeah,
It's the
100%.
only thing. So this software is a part of being in the community. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, that's the one thing you're bang on with that. I've learned that as well in my journey is I think I've always underestimated community, to be honest, because I think we just get inundated, right? There's Facebook community, school community, church community, school there's so many things, but I think you need that for life, man. And I think especially through Canada, when we locked down for 2 years, we saw how important community is, man. It's vital to
yeah,
physical health, mental health, everything. So that's really cool. You guys have that.
yep, 100%.
Cool, man. Well, before we say goodbye, is there any last quote or gold nugget or just something that a listener can, you gave a lot today and I know we
Yeah.
jumped around, but just something like quote or actionable advice we can kind of wrap the show on before we part ways here.
One thing that's been super successful to me as we talk about identity and changing who you are and all these different things, people go, oh, I need to do what you do. I get up at 4 a.m., I work out, I take an ice bath every day. I don't do that because, Andy Elliott does that. Alex Hormozy is big on you don't need that because people are trying to pattern it. But what I've found in success is you look for templates. Success is found in templates. You find in somebody else a template of what works, and then you follow the template and you apply it to your own life, which we can talk
Nice.
another time all about that.
Yeah.
But that's
Part
what I've
three.
done. And, we can, the reality is look at other businesses that you see, look for the template, figure out what you want, and go from there.
Yeah. I love it, Eric. Well, ladies and gents, Eric Kelly, go ahead and leave a rating on the show. If this one didn't do it, I don't know what will. So, Eric, I appreciate you, our friendship, man, your time coming and being so gracious and dropping some gold nuggets along the way, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
It was a pleasure, Dave.